Being a lesbian has so many positives for me and is so amazing for me in so many ways, and so many other trans women.
I know that you're not gonna like hearing this, but abortion is also a men's issue and a trans issue.
But I feel like a lot of lesbianism being tied around what parts you have down there is weird.
All right, guys, it's time for everybody's favorite part of the podcast where I react to some insane LGBT TikToks from the perspective of a center-right gay man. Buckle up and get ready to lose some brain cells with me.
Now, being a lesbian is much like being trans at the core of my identity. It is a big part of who I am and how I identify, and intertwines so much with my beliefs, morals, and how I live my life. And being a lesbian has so many positives for me and is so amazing for me in so many ways, and so many other trans women it's also amazing, and even other trans masculine and trans men people. It's amazing. Lesbian love is supposed to be very, very inclusive, and pretty much the only rule about lesbian love is that it does not include cis men. So a common misconception about lesbians is that it's just woman on woman. But you can also be non-binary and be a lesbian. And like I said, you can also be transmasculine and be a lesbian. Lesbian relationships are just so special. So good. I swear to God, there's nothing like it.
So if these folks get their way, I mean, the word lesbian, it's just going to lose all meaning. Also, being gay or being lesbian really shouldn't be that big a part of who you are, of your personality. Like, it's not insignificant. It definitely determines things about you and about your life and who you will have as a partner and build a family with, and that is definitely not insignificant. But it really doesn't count as a personality, and I don't really see how it would totally inform your worldview or your morals or your values, as if you're not an individual. You're still going to need to have a personality beyond the box you check on the census, babe. And I'm going to have to check you on this statement that trans masculine people or trans men can be lesbians. The only way that's true is if you're saying they're not actually men and they're just women, which I don't think you're saying, because you don't get to redefine lesbianism. No, not after it was fought so hard for it to be accepted and normalized. You don't get to redefine it. It's not non-men who love non-men or whatever sexist, reductive nonsense you just popped off about. It is women who love other women. So either trans men are men, or they're lesbians. But y'all really can't have this one both ways. At least, not if your goal is to make any sense. And no, you cannot be a non-binary lesbian, primarily because non-binary isn't a real or legitimate concept, but also because if you identify as non-binary, you're explicitly saying that you don't identify as a woman. So how could you possibly be a woman who loves other women? The math isn't mathing, Cupcake. I honestly feel bad for my lesbian supporters and followers because it feels like your identity is under attack from within the LGBT community. These people really need to stop because they're not helping. If you're anything like me, it probably freaks you out how much information there is about you on the internet. Personally, I didn't realize just how quickly and easily people could find my address with a quick Google search. That's why I've been using Aura, the sponsor of today's video. Aura shows me which data brokers are selling my information and automatically submits opt-out requests for me. Aura found 18 sites that were publicizing and selling my private data and information and is helping me put a stop to it. Cleaning up my information not only helps reduce the amount of spam I get, but it protects me from hackers who could use this information to help them access my social media accounts, bank accounts, or other sensitive information. And Aura does even more than all that to protect me from online threats I can't see. I get other features like antivirus, VPN, password management, parental controls, identity theft, insurance, and more without having to download several different apps. It's really easy to set up, and best of all, I get it all at an amazing price. And you should too. Go to www.aura.com/Polumbo, Polumbo, and get yourself some peace of mind and privacy today. Again, you can go to aura.com/Polumbo, which is linked in the description, to start your 14-day free trial today and support my content at the same time. Up next, this trans lesbian says other lesbians make them feel unsafe.
But I feel like a lot of lesbianism being tied around what parts you have down there is weird. I see many jokes from specifically cis lesbians who say being a lesbian is about not wanting you know what, right? I can't say it on here. But like they'll make that the entire personality around lesbianism. I'm a trans lesbian who has not had bottom surgery. And I'm not insecure. I'm not insecure about the parts that I have down there. But I do feel unsafe when I go into lesbian spaces,
Unsafe?
like a lesbian bar, because there's certain people who still believe in the whole ideology of clocking and being clocked. And it's just weird, right? It's just weird. Personally, I don't trust it when people use the assigned gender at birth outside of its appropriate context. So when I see like lesbian bars or like lesbian oriented things that are AFAB only, it makes me feel a little unsafe, a little weird.
There's a lot to unpack there. Firstly, there's nothing wrong with lesbians basing their identity in part on the basis that they're not attracted to biological male genitalia. Because for years they were pressured by society and by their family and probably from within to try to be attracted to biological males and just fit in and just get along and just have the life they were supposed to have, and they couldn't. It didn't work. And that's okay. They're okay and acceptable just the way they are. And that way is fundamentally not attracted to biological males. But now you're telling them that actually that's not okay, attacking the basis and core of their identity from the far left instead of the far right this time. But it's still an attack and not acceptable. Look, I'm sure there's plenty of people who would be happy to date this person. So stop trying to force lesbians to be into you and to be into biological males. It's never gonna happen. It's not gonna work. And it's kind of creepy. Also, I hate this language about being unsafe. Like, give me a break. Even if you are made to feel unwelcome, you're not physically unsafe. The conflations between emotions and physical safety is one of the most disturbing and widespread things that I constantly see in these woke TikToks. Hurt feelings are not, in fact, equivalent to a punch to the face. And only somebody who's lived a punch-free life of relative privilege could ever seriously think otherwise. Up next, abortion is now a trans issue because words have no meaning.
I know that you're not going to like hearing this, but abortion is also a men's issue and a trans issue. We are at the 1-year anniversary of the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade, and I think folks still don't know that abortion is an intersectional issue. Abortion is a trans issue not just because trans people get abortions, but because trans rights and abortion rights boil down to the same thing, which is government control and what you and I do with our bodies. As uncomfortable as it may be to hear, abortion is also a men's issue because trans men have abortion, trans masks have abortions, and we need cis men who don't have the capacity for pregnancy to be fighting for abortion rights. Roe v. Wade was overturned a year ago by a Supreme Court majority that, for the most part, does not have the capacity for pregnancy, and we can't have that happen again. Planned Parenthood currently has a petition to expand the Supreme Court and for transparency requirements around the justices. You can sign it at ppfa.org/reform. Abortion rights activists have long said that people without the capacity for pregnancy, like me, need to be vocal allies in this because we need to be sharing in the labor. And as long as I have this platform, I will be fervently pro-abortion because I am pro a life-saving procedure and pro your right to your bodily autonomy. Our fight is far from over, and my place is fighting alongside you for your bodily autonomy and for mine. The sooner we begin working together, the more effective I think we'll be.
Babe, it's giving incoherent. I'm honestly kind of confused because for years I was told by liberals and progressives that when it comes to the debate over abortion, no uterus, no opinion. But now progressive trans activists are saying that actually biological males can have an opinion on abortion, but not just that, but that it's actually intrinsically issue tied to their identity and rights. Which is it? To be clear, I actually reject the no uterus, no opinion logic and find it fundamentally undemocratic. And while I don't want to get into the whole substance of the abortion debate, I know lots of my followers fall on either side, and I think good people can disagree about this complicated issue. I will just say that if one does believe abortion is the ending of an innocent human life, then it only makes sense that if one holds that belief, They would want to see abortion legally prohibited, regardless of whether they have a uterus or regardless of whether they're a man or a woman. It's just the same way they would want to see murder outlawed in their view. Anyway, I just don't agree at all that abortion is a trans issue or an LGBT issue. The two seem pretty much unrelated to me, honestly. I'm not seeing the connection here. Abortion is a really complicated issue with compelling intellectual and moral arguments on either side of the debate. And I think any gay or trans person, who are ultimately all individuals, could look at that debate and land on either side. This whole conflating everything with everything is just part of a broader rhetorical creep I've witnessed that I really don't like, where they call everything an LGBT rights issue or an immigrants issue or whatever. I mean, one of the biggest LGBT rights groups, the Human Rights Campaign, marks they actually mark lawmakers as anti-LGBT if they vote against immigration. And their logic is that some immigrants are LGBT. Like, if we're just conflating everything with everything, then these words have no meaning anymore. When everything is an LGBT issue, that designation starts to lose any real significance or meaning and stops being compelling whatsoever. You might not realize it, but you're unintentionally or intentionally neutering the rhetorical force of your own arguments. Other than that, though, you're doing great, sweetie. Alright, guys, I can't really handle any more of these LGBT TikToks in one sitting without incurring permanent brain damage. If you're still here, you must have found something interesting or insightful about this video and this podcast, so please do consider subscribing and sticking around, and maybe even turning on those bell notifications. Oh, and don't forget to like and comment with your thoughts. Now, I'll see you all next week, but if you're not sick of my content yet, you can go here or here to check out more of my videos you might just enjoy.